Scanning for audio.
Welcome to the Tin Dog Podcast. Now, as I said last time, I'd like to review Dark Eyes. Now, rather than review the whole of Dark Eyes 1 in one go, which is very nice, I thought I'd break it down into its individual components and review it that way. That's not to say I'm just going to review the bits with just Molly or just the Doctor or whatever like that. But let's face it, you are dealing with very specific individual episodes, stories almost. Think Utopia and then the one that followed it with the Master. They're very different stories with different locations, with merely things that follow on one from another. Now, if you've bought Dark Eyes, you already know this. This is a re-listen, a re-review, if you like. Because I wanted to cover this before I did Dark Eyes 2, which is just out. Because let's face it, in 6 months' time, there's Dark Eyes 3. These have replaced the Paul McGann range. These are the Paul McGann range, if you think about it. Straight off, if you've not experienced Dark Eyes, it's brilliant. Go and get it. It doesn't cost very much. It's well worth it, and it'll fill in some time. If you enjoyed the Night of the Doctor, this is the Night of the Doctor. This fits wonderfully. This is the same desperate, scary 8th Doctor that was there. That's all you need to know. Stop listening now and get it if you don't already have it. If you've already heard it, continue listening. Join me as we journey through Dark Eyes. Are you still with me? Good. As I said earlier, if you want the Time War, if you've ever thought of the Time War, this is where it is. If ever you've wanted to experience just a fraction of the actual war itself, here you go. Dark Eyes is as near to the Time War itself, or one of the Time Wars, as you'll get. Now let's face it, the original battle, the blow that sparked the Time War, is either the Doctor leaving Gallifrey and ending up on Skaro, and thus alerting to the Daleks to the fact that there's life beyond the dome, there is life beyond the sky and Davros was wrong, or whoever created them, or it's genesis of the Daleks itself, i.e. earlier, with the intervention, the apparent almost destruction of the Daleks. The Doctor has a chance to end them, and doesn't. Still, as fans, we debate these things, and that, kind of unwritten, is where we stand with the Time War. It's called that because it happens through time. The Gallifrey series, which I have reviewed in part on the Tin Dog Podcast, but I'm sure I'll go back and cover the whole lot again, because there are now 6 parts, 6 epic cycles to it. Cover a Daleks versus Gallifrey scenario. It builds up to it and basically sorts it out. So if you need the Time War, look there. But also look here with Dark Eyes. Daleks, Time Lords, something going on. Firmly, this story begins with the 8th Doctor reeling and in pain from the events in the Lucy series. You don't need to know what's happened to enjoy this. However, if you're going to ignore the Lucy series, you're really fooling yourself. If ever you get the cash together to buy the Lucy Miller series of 8th Doctor stories, get those. But let's face it, this guy's already reeling from the loss of Charlie as well. This is an increasingly damaged 8th Doctor, and he's had enough. He wants to travel to the end of time and see if there is any hope whatsoever. Well, that's where he goes. The Time Lords do not want people visiting the end of time. Straxus is sent off to stop him and makes him an offer to investigate something. Again, it smacks of the beginning of Genesis of the Daleks. Now, as this is a re-listen, I'm already assuming you've already heard this story. And let's face it, there's Daleks on the box, so we know they're in here somewhere. And like all great Dalek stories, the Daleks themselves don't turn up until the very end of episode 1, i.e. the end of this disc. Now, as I was saying, like the Utopia thing, where you've got location per story, that's what you have here. This story is called The Great War. This one disc, this one bit of the story, not the whole of Dark Eyes, is what won the award. because its soundscape, its characterisation, its plotting, its building of mystery and momentum and character are second to none. It's well structured, well scripted. There is something that happens in episodes of the audio drama called The Archers. It's a soap that's been running for many, many years for anyone outside the UK. And most people in the UK know of it, but have never heard it. One of the things that the writers have to avoid is something that happens, that does tend to happen. It's a shorthand because the episodes are only 15 minutes long. Some characters are in a room. You don't know, as an audience, how many characters are there. Which is why you get people saying things like, "Hello, you two," which never ever happens in real life. That kind of thing. Early Big Finish was responsible for it. People losing their sight and having to have things described to them, or being in very dark rooms, or being cut off and having things relayed to them. This used to happen a lot in Early Big Finish. But as listeners, we've paid our money, we've invested, and we are paying attention. Unlike, say, radio that's just being broadcast at us, we've elected to listen. Basically, radio is television for people with their eyes closed and their minds open. And that's how this works. The atmosphere, we know exactly what's happening. We know, for example, the Doctor's TARDIS breaks. Straxus's TARDIS materialises. If it wasn't for the economy of language at that point, we wouldn't be aware that it was Straxus's TARDIS materialising. We would just assume that the Doctor's TARDIS was working. But it's all told in one line, but it doesn't feel clunky. It feels descriptive and natural. McGann's very, very good in this. Perhaps the best he's been in a while. The guy's getting better and better at playing the Eighth Doctor. So this story, the Great War, obviously it relates to the Great War in the sense of the First World War, 100 years, this year. But it's also the Great War in the sense of the Time War. Big Finish are very good at having that dual-named titles. Dual-meaning titles, if you see what I mean. Which brings us to the location. Obviously, Straxus gives the Doctor a mission which isn't actually gone into. It's a bit like those scenes in films where somebody goes, "I'll tell you the plan," and they all go around and whisper, 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 and you don't hear it as the audience because you're about to see it. McGann's Doctor is sent to the First World War to a gas attack. Again, flashes of Genesis of the Daleks. But you've got the character of Molly. You've also got Molly's assistant, who is a VAM. Now, VAMs are basically First World War voluntary nurses. Again, we're fitting in with the BBC's remit of educational things. Because there are so many little bits of history thrown into this, you get the feeling that it's like BBC TV Doctor Who. You're learning things as you go. It gives a feeling of verisimilitude, which works tremendously well here. Molly is introduced. You get the feeling, as an audience, without the foreknowledge of advertising, that she is going to be a central character. But there is somebody posher, someone more Charlie-like, who seems to be a more likely candidate to be the next companion, to be the main focal point for this character. Molly does not like the Doctor very much at all. She's wary of him in a way you don't get with companions, and it's refreshing and nice. She can give as good as she gets. We've had that many times. And of course, the Eighth Doctor does work well with people from the beginning of the 20th century, the end of the 19th. She is nowhere at all a replacement for Charlie. If anything, she could have been Charlie's companion, in the sense of being her maid, if time had taken a different route, which of course here it has. So we've got the beginning, the introduction, the mystery, the setup, the important part of part one. And then we skip into, of course, actual narrative. The Doctor surviving on the fields of the First World War. Of course that's going to ring bells with people who are familiar with the war games. And it's easier to produce a muddy field on audio than it is on TV. So as a first part, it's exquisite, it's excellent, it's a truly memorable experience. And I can see why this won an award. But it is, of course, only part one. And in the background, lurking, there is someone who wants a map made. A voice that sounds suspiciously like Toby Haydock, in league with someone in a room with Dalek sound effects. You know, you put someone in a Dalek control room, you'll always know where you are, because that is perhaps even more iconic than the look of the Dalek. And so I will journey on and listen to episode 2 once more and report back once that's happened. So until next time, which won't be long, where we'll do Dark Eyes 1.2. Be seeing you. You've been listening to the Tin Dog Podcast. Doctor Who and its connected properties are copyright and trademark of the BBC. No infringement is intended. To contact the show, email tin-dog@hotmail.co.uk. Whostrology, A Time Traveller's Almanac, is available through Telos Publishing or Amazon. Visit www.whostrology.com for further information. The Tin Dog Podcast is a founder member of the Doctor Who Podcast Alliance.
Doctor Who, Dark Eyes.
Dear Mammy, I have no idea if I'll ever finish this letter or find a way to post it to you, but I kept it in me petticoat. The first bit is a little smudged, but it is drying off. I will try to fill in the unreadable bits later. Anyway, there's this fella who calls himself the Doctor, and he says he has saved me, and we are in his time machine. We went to 1940, but I did not get any older, and there was another war, the Germans, and... Sure, this is all just plain crazy stuff. Writing it down just makes it sound worse.
Run, Molly, run! Take my hand.
No, this is all mad. Just madness.
Listen, Molly, this is going to be really difficult for me to explain, mainly because I don't really have a clue what's going on myself.
I've not got all the answers then, the Doctor.
Not by a long shot, but isn't it obvious that those things, the Daleks, are intent on doing us some serious harm?
This just isn't decent. It's...
I know, no time for all that.
The destruction of the Time Lords will be achieved.
No problem, friend.
One would think you had TARDISes materializing here every day.
I don't have a clue who you really are. All I know is that you think you're saving me, but you don't know why. Is that about the size of it?
Well...
And that you call yourself the Doctor, which sounds like a 10th-rate stage name to me. Oh, no! They're in your bathroom!
Exterminate the Doctor!
Back the other way!
Time Squad to Dalek Time Controller, now in Earth 20th Century Zone 2.
They're following us, flying again.
Flying? What are these creatures?
Hey, what's flying? Never you mind. Take a left here, cabby. No entry gate. Commit a traffic offence or get blown up. I'll leave the choice to you. Hang on! I'm going to call you Dark Eyes.
Are you looking for a punch on the nose?
So you've been here before.
You wouldn't consider killing me, would you?
Molly, this is 1940.
1940? What do you mean?
I told you the TARDIS is a time machine.
1940? Sure. It's true. You did say something of the kind.
This is it, Straxus, old boy. This'll be one for the history books.
All right, I get it. You're fighting a war against these Daleks.
I don't want to be fighting a war.
And it's getting you down. I understand that. But it doesn't mean you should give up.
Doesn't it?
Doctor, you will be exterminated!
I know!
No, we haven't discovered time travel, but we've discovered a time traveller.
Who?
Him. The Doctor.
What do you mean?
You can take this thing anywhere in history. Anywhere in the world.
And beyond?
Beyond the world? What? You mean like the moon and the sun?